Hello and welcome to the sports show. I was trying to stream this on YouTube. Probably gonna be our what we'll try to do in the future. I think we'll still have it uploaded, obviously, but um, yeah, I think it'll be a little bit easier. I think for us to stream it on YouTube than you know what I do. I uploaded this episode late last week. I think I uploaded it before Friday night's game, so I just sound like a huge idiot talking about how the Ravens are going to beat the Chiefs. To be fair, I think I was pretty non-committal when we were talking about that. I was saying how the Chiefs usually come out the gate slow. Um, and I don't remember if I think I was talking to it on the podcast and not with coworkers about how the Chiefs um, typically win their week ones. So, pretty non-committal. Not.
Yeah, not committal from both ends. I don't even think we actually said during the podcast. I mean, I don't remember. We thought we'd win that game and the Eagles Packers game, but I do know you started off 0-2, and I was one for one because I chose the Chiefs and the Packers. Packers lost, and you chose the Ravens and the Packers. But
Yeah, and
um, yeah,
funnily
we'll see
enough,
how we
I
do
think
this
the
week.
Ravens game was actually a lot closer. Because it was like half an inch away from scoring. The Packers, even if Jordan Love had stayed in and didn't get hurt, that's still 70 yards that he has to drive because I think the Packers went for the field goal.
Yeah, and that was just kind of a weird game too, with it being in Brazil and everything. Who
Let's
knows how it would have been in the U.S. To be honest, kind of a weird situation there.
let's talk. I know I want to talk about a few other things, but let's talk about that Packers Eagles games real fast. Specifically, the last Eagles drive of just kicking the field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 1. Do you agree with that? Because I think given how good of a game Saquon was having, which I swear he didn't start off having a good game, but he ended like averaging 4.5 yards a carry, 170 yards. So that's pretty good. What do you think kicking the field goal was the right call?
Not gonna lie, I didn't see the very end of that game. I just know it was like a lot of back and forth. The
So
Packers were up a good amount, but then the Eagles kind of just stormed back towards the end.
so to paint the picture for you, at the end of the game, the Eagles had driven down. The Packers called all of their timeouts before the 2-minute warning, which I disagree with because since the clock's going to stop at 2 minutes anyway, the Eagles aren't really desensitized from or de-incentivized from throwing a throw on third down. Excuse me, which is what they ended up doing. Um, because the clock's going to stop anyway, whether you run or whether you throw. So you might as well throw because that gives you a better chance of getting that first down. But the thing I specifically wanted to talk to you about is it's like 4th and 1, 4th and 2, something like that, and they uh they end up kicking a field goal with 27 seconds left to go. It's a 21-yard field goal, a chip shot. But at this
Yeah,
point in the game, they were already up 31-29, 21 yards.
right,
So they're like at the 6-yard line, right? So even if you don't
right.
make the touchdown, you're still forcing Green Bay to go 90 some
Uh,
yards.
I see, I see.
And
I
to be fair, it's not 90 some
Yeah,
yards, right? Because it ultimately
they could
boils
just
down
kick a
to
field goal.
yeah, so it ultimately boils down to how much does the Packers trust their kicker because
Yeah,
you either drive 70 yards to get the touchdown or you drive 50 some yards and kick a long field goal. I guess it'd be closer
right.
to 60 yards. So, in my
Yeah,
opinion, I feel like you go for the run, force them to go 50, 60 plus yards, but still have a chance to just put away the game. Because even at the field goal and a 70-yard kick or a 70-yard drive, that's like 27 seconds is still a lot. And then, well, I guess you don't necessarily know, but um, Jordan Love ends up driving the field a good amount and then getting hurt. And then Malik Willis showed showed the world why he's a second string quarterback, which isn't fair to
Yeah,
him. He only had 2 weeks to
no,
prepare.
no. I mean, Malik Willis is probably like a third string quarterback at best. But yeah, from that description, I think I actually agree with the decision. Because yeah, you're either asking them, like, from your point, yes, you could either uh ice the game right there if you get the first down, or if you score. Was it fourth and goal? It wasn't fourth and goal, right? It was
It
still
was
like,
fourth and goal.
it was fourth and goal. So you could either score, and that basically ice the game. But if you don't score, yeah, you would they would start out within, let's say, the 5 yard line or something like that, and that'd be a really long drive to get to field goal range. So I get that, but I think I would have preferred, and this is what they did, just being up, you know, uh, five, which is what they ended up doing, and forcing them to drive down the field, is that they still had like what 25 seconds left, right?
Yeah,
And I know you said Jordan Love like kind of was driving a little bit there before he got injured, but I still, just in general, without even knowing what Jordan Love did, I'd rather you having to drive the entire field with like 20 seconds left, 25 seconds left, versus only having to do it, let's say 60 yards or something like that for a field goal.
and
I think I would have agree with the decision. Yeah.
I guess there's a lot more components to it, right? Because there's the fact that if you drive or if you go for the run, there's a chance that Saquon could have fumbled.
Yeah.
He had pretty solid hands. I don't think he fumbled at all. In fact,
But just in general, you just never
yeah.
know.
Um, but then on the other hand, you know, for the Packers, is it harder for them to start at the 5 yard line with a shortened backfield, or is it harder for them to score a touchdown against a defense as a shortened backfield, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the other big thing is it's hard to score in the red zone, and it's hard to get out of your own red zone. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it doesn't matter. I think no matter what Philly did, Green Bay did not do enough to secure them the game, and I think that was their game to lose. Um,
I agree.
but
Yep.
I'm apparently a known Jalen Hurts hater and Philadelphia Eagles hater, so
Well,
grain
we're
of
on the
salt.
same page. We're on the same page this year, that we both don't have him making the playoffs. So that's why we thought the Packers would take it. They're kind of been on the up and up. So yeah, same page.
So I want to spend. So let's see. We've been talking for 8 minutes now. I just want to talk about 5, maybe 10 minutes, on the political side of the NFL. There's two people that I am very vocal about disliking in the NFL for personal reasons, and that's Tyreek Hill and Deshaun Watson. Both of
Oh
them
yeah.
got into some controversies, you know, the past couple of days.
Let's talk about both of them. Let's talk about Tyreek first.
Yeah, so obviously, it was revealed that Tyreek Hill was detained before the Miami game, the Miami Jaguars game. And initially I was like, you don't really get detained for speeding unless you're speeding really really fast or you're being belligerent. Um and so that's already a strike against Tyreek in my mind. And then I think it was today. It might have been yesterday. No, it was yesterday. I keep thinking today's Monday. Yesterday, Jacksonville released the footage of Tyreek Hill getting arrested, and to take this as non biased as possible, essentially what had happened was the cop had come up to him, and he's being kind of confrontational. They asked him to keep his windows down. He doesn't want to, and then they essentially rip him out of his car and arrest him. Um, the actual footage itself is apparently like 2 hours long, the whole ordeal. And I've only watched a snippet of it. I haven't watched the whole thing, but
Did you see the like? What have you seen? Did you see the part where they come
rip
up
him
to
out of his
his
car.
window? Yeah, so you saw
Yeah.
that part? Okay, yeah,
So
that's what I've seen as well.
I wanna get your perspective on it first before I talk about my perspective on the whole thing.
So, my perspective, just from seeing everything, the way I look at it, so I did see there's also the clip where it shows, I don't know if it's, I think it's a different clip, but it's right before that where he does, you see Tyreek driving past the officers. He's not going like 90 or something, but yeah, you can tell he's definitely going like compared to the speed of the other cars. It's definitely at least like double whatever they're going, it seems like to me. So he definitely is going fast. Um, that's one. Like he was driving fast, like in a construction area. Like, you know, he probably should know better than that. But so that's one. So, but seeing the other clip, the one that we've both seen where the cop, is by his driver's side window and talking to him. Um, you can tell that Tyreek is being kind of just confrontational at the same time and not really following like anything that the officer is telling him. Um, and like he, gives him his driver's license. He's saying a few things. He's like, "Do what you got to do," or whatever, something like that. And he rolls the window up, and the cop asks him like twice to like roll it down. And on the third time, he like rolls it down like slightly, to say some more stuff, like just like he wasn't going to do it basically. And he rolls it back up, and then that's when the cop, he decides like we're going to rip him out and do that. So I think there's two things here. I think one, I do think Tyreek wasn't navigating the whole situation the way he should have. I think if he just listened to whatever the officers were asking of him, it wouldn't have escalated to that point. However, I do think the officers at the same time were a little uh, extra with some of it. There's like another clip, especially where they like, I don't remember exactly, but they were like kind of just, it was after they had already like put him on the ground and stuff. But they like, he like kind of put him in a chokehold or something and almost kind of like hit him or something like that. That stuff I think was a little extra. I mean, I know Tyreek was still just talking and whatever and all that, and maybe he wasn't complying with stuff, but I don't think you have to like get to that point. Like he's already like in handcuffs, he's already detained. Like you don't have to like do all that. So so yeah, I think that's my opinion. I think Tyreek uh was kind of just belligerent in the way he was reacting, and I think he could have handled it better if he actually, if he was just trying to go through it like any other person normally would. And I do think the officers were also a little bit extra on what they did at certain points with Tyreek. So that's what I think. What do you think?
So I think, and I'm trying really hard not to upset anyone on either side of the political spectrum here.
Good luck.
Um, so I understand the whole ACAB movement, right? All cops are bastards. I get that movement. I get the whole idea that there's this idea that cops are just power hungry people, and that's kind of what it seems like in this video. Of one, so again, try not to piss anyone off. One, it is illegal for a cop to forcibly open a car and to forcibly pull someone out, right? What But with that being said, what Tyreek did was technically a felony. It is technically something that you can be arrested for. I was kind of curious, so I googled how fast Tyreek was going and what the speed limit was. So he was going 60 in a 40. But
Okay.
construction zone
Yeah.
means that your speed is essentially doubled. So
Yeah.
he was going 40 over the speed limit according to the law.
Yep.
Um, and at least in Colorado, it is a criminal charge to be going 17 miles per hour over the speed limit. So even ignoring the construction zone, what Tyreek did was a criminal offense. With that being said, I think Tyreek made it very easy to make himself a target because even though I don't believe that there's any law that says you have to keep your windows down, that's just one of those things that you should be doing when you get pulled over, right? Like you should keep your windows
Right.
down and you should not be reaching for the glove box or anywhere underneath or
Right.
make any sudden movements, right? Like these are just things that you kind of know to do, even if that's not technically what the law is, right?
Right.
And I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say of, hey, don't like if a cop already thinks you're a criminal, don't do things to perpetuate the fact that you're a criminal, right? Um so I'm kind of torn because on the one hand, no, technically what Tyreek did isn't against the law. Everything past the speeding part, right?
Right.
Wasn't really against the law. But if you're going to be confrontational, you can't be surprised when the other person is going to confront you. Um, the bigger thing for me is why was Tyreek driving in the first place? In the clip itself, he says, "I'm gonna be late." Right? Just give me the ticket. I'm gonna be late. Why are you not on the team bus?
I, I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's for the home games. I'm not sure if they do a team bus. I could be wrong, but I think they just go there on their own. I feel like.
Because that's crazy to me that he would be driving himself.
No, yeah, I think all players get to the home games however they get there. They whether they bike there or they drive there or they have someone drive them. So
That's
yeah, I think that's why. Um, but no, I think honestly we have similar opinions and maybe one way or the other a little bit different. But I think it's the same conclusion that yeah, I think Tyreek put himself in a bad situation. He didn't help himself and just follow what the officers were requesting. I mean, if we had seen the video and he's literally just like following what the officers were requesting and they're still doing that, like, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be at fault, in my opinion, if that was the case. But I mean, from what we saw, I think they gave him multiple chances. Like, hey, roll it down, roll it down, roll it down. Like, whether or not it was, against the law or not, like that's what they were requesting that he did. And he made it very like sketchy. Like, is he trying to get something? Is he trying to pull something from somewhere? You know what I mean?
yeah, and
And
that's the other thing. Is at
yeah.
least from the video, it looks like his window's really tinted.
Oh, it's tinted as hell. You can't see anything in there.
And
And
granted,
yeah,
that's not like a rare thing. People have illegal tints all the time. That's not like a thing unique to Tyreek or unique to celebrities or something. Um, but he definitely sets it off on the wrong foot when the cop's knocking on his window and he rolls his hand and says, "Don't knock on my window," and the cop says, "How else am I supposed to get your attention?" Like,
right, right. No, I
so
mean,
yeah, but
and the fact that look, you just said like, okay, let's say he's going 60, speed limit's 40, and it's probably like 20 or whatever, um, for the construction or let's say it's 30, actually, because it's construction, right? Like he's already double the speed limit. That's a big discrepancy there. So cops are already like, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Like they don't know. I mean, maybe one of the cops knew he was Tyreek Hill, but there's a good chance that, I mean, not everyone knows everyone. Like there's a chance that maybe one of the cops didn't even know who he was. That shouldn't even matter. But I'm just saying, like it, they don't know, like, and that's a good thing. They shouldn't like have preferential treatment whether you're a Tyreek Hill or you're just a random guy off the street. You know what I mean? Um, but the point is like, yeah, they're already on edge because he had already been so much over the speed limit in this construction zone. So they're probably thinking, what is this guy up to? Is like why is he going so fast? He's got this like nice car. What does he have stuff in there? Like how did he get it? Whatever the case may be. So I think overall, I think we're kind of on the same page, and I think it needs to be better from both sides for
And
this specific
and
incident.
I do want to point out too, like Tyreek Hill is, I called him a celebrity earlier. I alluded to the fact that he's a celebrity. That's not necessarily the case with like sports, right? Especially football, where like I was all in on Brock Purdy 2 years ago when he first started. I had no idea what he looked like. Um,
Yeah,
I have no idea.
especially just on the street like that. It's one
Yeah,
thing you just see them on the football field and they're a little more identifiable with their helmet off and like their uniform, but you just see someone off the street. I don't think I've ever identified. You can tell me if you have. I don't think I've ever identified a celebrity of whatever sort off the street, whether it's in LA or in Austin or wherever. I don't think that's not what I'm good at.
yeah. I don't.
Uh, yeah,
I mean, to give you an example, my sister and I went to a Broncos like celebration thing. It was before the preseason started and stuff. And Eric Decker was there, and my sister loved Eric Decker. Right? She had all of his football cards and stuff. And we saw him there, and he's just in street clothes, and we're like, that guy looks kind of like Eric Decker. Is that Eric Decker?
yeah.
We were like trying to like sneak catch like views of him and stuff, and we could not tell until later. We had suspicions that it was Eric Decker, but it wasn't until later when we read an article that said Eric Decker was there, but he wasn't part of like the panel that was like signing stuff. Where we're like, oh shit, that was Eric Decker. And that's someone from that was like collecting his cars and stuff. Um, I don't I don't think casual fans would necessarily know what someone looked like, right? Like
No.
I think I could literally run into Javonte Williams, one of my
Yeah.
favorite Bronco
There's
players
no way.
at
Yeah, there's no
Walmart
way.
and not notice him because they show him like without his helmet on during Monday night and on the sidelines and stuff. But playing like an hour of football, much less like an entire game, and in being in street clothes are two very different things. So
100%. You would have to be one of the most recognizable people for me to like notice. Like if you're a basketball player, you're gonna be tall, right? And if you have something that's very noticeable about you,
and I
that's more
think
obvious. But everyone else, like you just don't know
and I think
necessarily.
like I would recognize basketball players easier than football players because you're
Oh,
not
100%.
wearing a helmet for
100%.
basketball. So, but I think the
100%.
the bigger controversy, and it's funny because the bigger controversy, but I think it's one that you and I are going to be more in line with, is the whole Deshaun Watson
Well, and,
situation.
and before we get, I do want to say one more thing about Tyreek.
All right.
Like it is, and this is like to your point, it is very like it's just awkward to me. People kind of coming to his defense, knowing like, and it's a different situation, but to your point, knowing what he's done in the past, like punching his pregnant wife and like just all that abuse and everything. Like
Dude, I mean,
it's a weird thing for me.
we like live in a world where people are calling James Winston one of the most likable people in the NFL.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's just weird.
I mean,
Um,
just to make sure that no one likes us or no one likes me, I guess. Like I get mad whenever people talk about how great of a person Kobe Bryant was. And I'm like,
no,
he's kind of
that
a shitty
honestly,
person. Like he's a good
that's
basketball
that's fair.
player.
I think Kobe got much better. Like I think he became a much better person towards the end of his career. But yeah, during that time when he was in trial and
I
all
mean,
that stuff, like
when you're fucking competing against, oh, I no longer rape people. Yeah, I think it's not
sure.
that hard to be a better person.
No, I mean, obviously. But not even just like are you doing that or not? I was just more like, he just seemed like he was generally a good person towards the end. But yeah, you can't just wipe that from the memory. Like that was the whole thing. And, like, yeah, you can't forget about that. But same with Tyreek. Like there's been multiple allegations against him, evidence, pictures, etc. He's not a good dude. Like, and to make him out as the victim here, yes, once again, was not handled perfectly, but it's very weird and awkward for me.
I mean,
So
I
I'm
guess
sure it is for you too. But
the way I see it though is if I go to you and I'm just antagonizing you, right? Like I'm just talking shit about your mom, about your family, about your life and all that stuff, and you get mad and you punch me. Yeah, you were in the wrong. I never like physically touched you. But if people heard both sides of the story,
yeah,
I think the general consensus would be, yeah, Jay had it coming. You don't talk shit about someone's family or talk shit about someone and not expect to like face some sort of repercussions.
100%.
Like, yeah, technically what Tyreek Hill did, again after the whole speeding thing, was perfectly within his rights. But when you're being antagonistic, especially in a city like Miami, where there is gang violence, right? There is random acts of violence, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Those
not
cops
like
don't mess around. Yeah,
you're in Silicon
you're not.
Valley.
Yeah, you're not in Palm Springs where like nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Miami out of all the places, like those cops are hardcore.
And, you know, I get that when you hear that he was only going 60 miles per hour when, like, less than 5 years ago, we had Henry Suggs going over 100. Like, yeah, it feels less
Rugs,
extreme.
but yeah, that was crazy.
Ruggs, yeah, sorry. I
Yeah,
was thinking of the Ravens
Terrell
guy.
Suggs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's not as extreme, but it's
yeah,
still dangerous, if you watch the clip, you can see it's pretty heavy traffic still, more
yeah.
so because of
It's a small
construction.
area. It's not like a highway or anything. It just kind of like it was near the stadium, so it was just like a little like road. So,
But
um,
and then
yeah,
I'll end it on this unless you have one last thing.
no, I'm good.
I think if you're Mike McDaniels or whoever the owner is for Miami, you already want to keep a tight leash on Tyreek, at least during the regular season, right? Given all of his allegations, given you know his demeanor, and kind of given the whole diva situation that a lot of wide receivers seem to have, whether or not that's fair or not, up for debate. I think the fact that he felt like he needed to speed so that he wouldn't be late to his own game speaks volumes on, hey, I know that you're an adult, but if you are speeding to make it to the game on time, maybe you need to get there earlier. Maybe you need a
Yeah,
chaperone. And again, I don't like taking agency away from adults, right? But there comes a point where you're not. This isn't a video game. This isn't a hobby of yours. This is your career. You are affecting 51 other players. You're affecting every coach, everyone on your staff. You're affecting the fans. This is kind of a serious thing. Just wake up a half hour early and just drive responsibly to your game. You know? I don't know.
yeah,
I get that it's hard for professional athletes because they're essentially going from like high school to college, and you're not really maturing that much from, when you're 16 to 22, and then going from straight from that to, basically superstardom, because I think Tyreek Hill has been good since his rookie year.
yeah.
So
He
I
has
get that
been.
it's hard. I get that scientifically your brain's not done maturing until like 25, 26, and I think Tyreek is just barely over that. Let me see.
I think
He
he's like
is
28. Yeah, something like that.
30. So he's 30 years old, right? So I
Oh,
get that it's
oh, he's born
hard.
94. Okay, he's 30. Okay.
Yeah. So I get that it's hard to, you know, for you and I, it's a little bit easier for us to mature because after college, we're kicked out of the living situation we're comfortable with. Once we turn 25, all of a sudden we have to figure out, okay, I need to get a job because I need to pay for insurance. I need to pay for rent, all of that stuff. And that's not really stuff that professional athletes really have to worry about. From the time you turn 20, 21, 22 years old, you're making more money than I'm going to see basically in my lifetime, right? I guess that's not true for rookie contracts, but
Yeah,
so yeah.
not for rookie, but yeah.
Although like
Yeah, no,
Swan's not even making a million this year.
I think, and I don't even think I think he's like 900 something thousand. So in San Francisco, that's like
That's
you're
nothing.
like mid tier.
Yeah,
You're
you're middle
making
class.
900,000 in San Francisco plus the tax. I mean, yeah, he's living in he's like got roommates and all that stuff. So,
So
but anyway, no, I think we're mostly on the same page there, to be honest, more than we think. So we'll see what kind of comes out of it. But
we did not
yeah,
spend 10 minutes. We're like at 12 or 22 minutes right now. Holy shit.
well, we'll get through this. We'll just
We'll
we'll
grind it.
bop through. So the Deshaun Watson situation, I can kind of like just to start us off with that. But I mean, first of all, Cleveland has made a huge mistake, clearly, with this contract. It's a 230 million guaranteed contract that he's currently on, and they've only paid him. Well, not only they paid him, I think 2 years of it for 138 million. And he's still owed 170. Just these numbers I'm throwing out here are just ridiculous. He still owed 173 million in the next, I think, 3 years. Yeah, I think it was a 5 year, 238. So yeah, the next 3 years, he still owed 173 million, which is ridiculous. Um, I've I listened to First Things First with Nick Wright, uh, and Chris Broussard, and they did a little like thing about his contract situation. Apparently, for how much of his contract is counting against the cap next year. If they cut him this off season, let's say they just wanted to cut him, because they're just over it. Um, he would be because of what he's owed the next 3 years, 173 million against the cap, which is easily the most a player would be against the cap ever. Russell Wilson is currently the highest, but he's only compared to that at a 40 million hit against Denver's cap. So to be basically 4 times higher than the next biggest cap hit if you cut Deshaun Watson after this season is absolutely bonkers. And the fact that he's playing, I mean, it's the first game of the season, but not looking good. He's 24 for 45, 169 yards, 3.8 average, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions with a 51 quarterback rating, 6 sacks 6 times. Like, that's not good. And that team is a bunch of weapons. Amari Cooper's there. Um, you got Njoku for the tight end. Our boy Jerry Judy's there. But Elijah Moore is there too. So you got some weapons there, and you're playing terrible. And it's not just this year. You played, bad last year. You did win some games, but it was like in spite of you. And no one likes you, whether you're at home because you're not playing well or away because of everything you've done. Um, that got you the situation. It's just a horrible contract. So apparently, more allegations have come out. I don't know if this was like leaked because the Browns want him out, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. But more allegations have come out. I think just yesterday or a couple days ago or something about how he had done other things with somebody else, more massage related things. October 2020, apparently. Um, so I think the Browns are trying to use that to get out of the contract, but they put themselves in this situation. I feel like they should still be like almost punished for doing that. Like, you're so greedy that you're gonna take this guy with all these allegations, like 20 plus allegations, that I think he ended up pleading guilty to anyway, um, and give him all this guaranteed money is unreal. And you should have to basically pay for that, in my opinion. So I kind of just went into this whole diatribe. Jay, what are your thoughts about this whole Deshaun Watson situation?
So I think even if none of these allegations happened. And even if he played at the same level that he did 2018, 2020 of throwing over 4,000 yards, I think this trade would have been a fucking terrible deal. So even without all the bad stuff, right? I think this is
Okay, even
already
without the
one of
bad
the
stuff.
so even without any of the bad stuff, I think this was already one of the worst trades that we've seen in modern NFL history.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield was the first Browns quarterback since they left Baltimore to win them a playoff game. Baker Mayfield was the first Browns quarterback in a long time to even give them a winning season. First one to get them to the playoffs in the first place. And then they traded him away for nothing. And then traded 6 draft picks to get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Who I'm like again, at his peak was probably worth it, right? Like that Deshaun Watson at his peak is an upgrade to Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
But not 6 draft picks, not 3 first round picks. And that I think even and then outside of that, he was coming off of being injured, right? In 2020 or 2021 he got injured. And so you're signing him after being injured, giving this huge contract for a quarterback who hasn't played for an entire year because he got hurt, right? So that on itself already looks bad. And then you get the allegations, right? So again, ignoring his football play, you get all of these allegations where every other team who was looking at Deshaun Watson ends up pulling out. Besides Cleveland, Falcons, and there was one other team. And I don't remember what the other team was. Are trying to get out of this or
Yeah, I don't either.
decide, okay, this it's not worth it. He's going to be suspended for what, 6 weeks? I think it was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
He's going to be suspended for 6 weeks. That you have to pay him because the way NFL suspensions work is if you're not on a team, that it does not count towards your suspension. That's a big reason why Justin Blackmon doesn't play for the NFL anymore. It's because nobody wants to sign him where he can't play for his first year. So you already get that. On top of that, he already had a criminal case going against him actively when Cleveland signed him. And then that case ended up becoming a civil case. So already before anything that even came out this year, that was terrible, right? But then we see that he's also just not a good quarterback. And we 2018, 2019, 2020, he looked really good. But 2022, he played 6 games. 2023, he played 6 games. And if you take the yards that he got since joining Cleveland, and then assume that that's how he's going to play for the rest of the season, he would have been bottom 10 both years in passing efficiency. He would have thrown for just under 3,500 yards. And that's crazy to me that he is the highest paid quarterback playing at a bottom 10 level. I think the big controversy right now is the thing that he's being accused of now is raping someone. Before it wasn't rape; it was just sexual assault, right? But it was sexual assault, not rape. According to
Oh, really? I thought the other ones were that as well. They weren't.
no, it was all sexual assault. It was
Okay.
because according to the law, rape is penetration, right?
So those other ones didn't have that. I thought. Okay. I thought
No,
maybe a couple of them did.
it was all just
They're just
animus
odds
stuff.
related. Like, yeah. Gotcha. All right.
So this is again as of the law, because in my opinion, sexual assault and rape are both equally disgusting. But in the eyes of the law, rape has a heavier punishment to it than sexual assault does. So the big question is, did he disclose this information to Cleveland? Because if he didn't, that is a breach of contract.
Yeah.
But we don't know that part of the contract. We don't know what he disclosed to them, obviously. Um I think honestly what I would love to happen, and it's not going to because the NFL is just fucking degenerate, but what I would love to happen is he gets kicked out of the NFL. He gets the contract gets revoked, and the NFL as punishment forces Cleveland to donate the rest of his contract money to some sort of organization. They force Cleveland to still take the cap hit, and they force Cleveland to donate the rest of his salary to an organization to help sexually assaulted women. That was really hard to say. It's a tongue twister.
For
Um,
sure.
and I don't think that's gonna happen, but I think that's the only
No.
thing that is fair because going into it, Cleveland was like, okay, you have all this stuff and you have a pending court case, and we think it's okay for you to play, right? So I don't know. I think Cleveland is just showing that they don't deserve an NFL spot. And honestly, it would be great if they forced what's his name, like Hassam, Cleveland Browns owner
Oh, Jimmy
Haslam. Yeah,
Haslam, my bad.
if they just force him to sell the team, which I'm pretty sure they can do because I think another team had to do that recently, but I don't remember which team. Um, regardless, I think that's I don't know. That's just something I
Yeah.
don't really want to like. It just makes me so mad the whole
No, yeah.
situation.
No, for sure. I mean, just to like cap it off, yeah, I just think, um, yeah, that's what happens when you get greedy. You overlook these types of things, these types of issues, just for the betterment of yourself and the team that you own, and that's definitely what they did. And they just basically paid off a guy who is a bad dude and had a bunch of stuff that he did, that you know that we know he for sure did, and you still like basically you just got rewarded for it. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see where these allegations take us, as far as what Cleveland does, uh, maybe what the league does, who knows, and kind of go from there. But yeah, I think we're honestly on the same page on these first two topics, Jay. We gotta disagree more, but hey, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
Um,
I want the Buccaneers. I mean, they don't. The Bucks don't play against the Browns this year, but man, it. I already liked Baker
Baker
Mayfield.
fortune. I mean,
I already liked
I mean,
Baker Mayfield
Baker.
from from when he was on Cleveland. I didn't think he was a good quarterback when he was on Cleveland. Don't get me wrong. That's a more recent thought that I've been having. But I like Baker Mayfield, and to just see him have this like great redemption arc where everyone thought he was gonna like bomb out last year, and that he was just a bridge quarterback, and to take them to the playoff and win a game against Philly, and in such dominating fashion, no less. I'm just I'm really happy to see him doing well, and glad to see that the Browns, punishing me for having any amount of faith in them when they had Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no, who cares about the Browns for sure. Um, I do. Maybe we can do a couple of hot fire topics. I just wanted to bring up a couple things. One, Caleb Williams against the Titans. I don't know what you saw with that game, but Will Levis is such a terrible quarterback. Like the Titans should have easily won that game, being up 17-0, and to lose 24-17 because of some terrible interceptions by Levis and Caleb getting the win. Not really because of him, but just because of Levis sucking so bad. And the defense, the Bears defense was pretty good too. Um, was just kind of just crazy. Um, do you think Caleb? What do you think of Caleb's first game in the NFL? And do you think he's going to improve week by week?
I think I think he's gonna improve. I do want to talk about Will Levis first since you brought it up. I do think it's unfortunate that everyone's gonna talk about that terrible pick six that he threw towards the end of the game. But there was still 7.5 minutes left and he couldn't do anything. Um, it's kind of at a point where yeah that pass in particular was egregious and bad. Um, but I don't think you can blame nerves at this point. Like we talked about last week, he's he has to be the guy now that they don't have Derrick Henry anymore, and he's shown that he's not. And it's not like
Yeah,
Tennessee
definitely.
is a good
Yeah.
team. They've won that division. I think 3 of the last 5 years, maybe just 2 of the last 5 years, in large part off the back of Derrick Henry and not Ryan Tannehill. So I do kind of
Yep.
feel
Run
bad
game
for him.
defense. Yep.
So I do kind of feel bad for him in the sense that you know he has to do a lot more now. But on the other hand, he was a person that everyone thought was going to be a top five quarterback drafted last year. Ended up falling 32nd or 33rd overall. Um, you know, you were supposed to be a good quarterback. Your first quarterback taken in the second round. You know, there was a good chance that you could have been a day one quarterback. You need to show a little bit better than this. I think Will Levis probably played better than Caleb Williams on the day, but I think more to your point, I think Caleb Williams will get better. I think this is
Yeah,
something that
it's
we
the first
see.
game.
I think it's something that we see a lot for first overall picks. This is the first time a first or a rookie quarterback won their debut game. It was either a rookie
Yes, since
quarterback or it was a first round
yes,
quarterback.
first. Yeah, yeah, first overall pick winning their first game. First time since David Carr back in 02 with the Texans.
Man, that is a quarterback I haven't thought of in a while. Um,
Right.
I think it's a little disappointing to see when you look at Chicago's wide receivers and Caleb Williams not really able to do much there. Um, I think it's just preseason games is not full speed. Practice
He hasn't
obviously
had
isn't
a
full
good.
speed.
And I do want to bring up. He hasn't had a good completion percentage this entire time. Like he completed like 46% of his passes yesterday. Yeah, he was under 50%, and in the preseason he was like just over 50%. Like that's not great. I mean, I know it's not you know perfect. Maybe not all the right plays are
You cut out there, but
being drawn up, but I mean, you hear me now?
yeah, especially when you have people like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen on your team.
Yeah, that's a that's a great combo right there. So I agree. We'll see what happens with it's game one. I mean, even the other rookie quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. You know, I don't know what you thought about Bo Nix, but I actually thought he played all right for what he was up against Mike McDonald, really good defense in Seattle, great scheme, and then first game as a rookie quarterback, as a quarterback in the NFL, in Seattle, that's super loud. I thought he was pretty composed. He threw two picks that weren't great, but I mean, they're gonna be perfect. You're gonna throw picks, your first year. But I actually was more encouraged than discouraged with him. And then Jada Daniels, he's got a lot more to prove. He carried the ball 16 times. That's a lot for a quarterback, whether you're known as a rusher or a passer or whatever. I mean, he's definitely a dual threat. But I think Bo Nix had a good start there, or acceptable start there. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, and I would just break down those three quarterbacks. And of the three, I watched Jaden Daniels the least amount, so I'll go and start with him. I think as a rookie quarterback, it's really easy to kind of get into the habit of like just running the ball. I also think Washington isn't the best coached team in the NFL. Let's just put it that way. Um,
We'll see. I mean, yeah, Dan Quinn. We'll see what happens, but yeah.
16 carries seems like a lot, but you know, Washington. Granted, this was a long time ago, but RG3, same kind of quarterback. Early Pat
Yeah.
Mahomes, same kind of quarterback. I would even argue like early Josh Allen, similar kind of quarterback. He still threw 184 yards.
Yeah.
That's the most yards out of the three rookie quarterbacks that are starting week one.
Hey,
So
there you go.
I think the Bucks are a
At
tough
home
team.
though. But yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are a tough team also.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. No, they were away. Yeah, never mind.
I think the Bucks are a tough team. They've got I think they still have Vita Vea.
Yeah, they did.
So, like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think it's fine. That's
Yeah.
probably about, what I would expect from a rookie quarterback. And then I'm going to go to Caleb Williams because I think I have the most to say about Bo Nix. I think his play style, and this is what I thought ever since, people started saying he's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. I think people who say that kind of forget that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes if it wasn't for Alex Smith and Andy Reid. And if you think that's just me, you know, jerking off to Alex Smith because I like him, that is straight from Pat Mahomes' mouth of, I would not be the quarterback I was today if it wasn't for Alex Smith teaching me my rookie year. Um, that's high praise when really all he has to say is, yeah, Alex Smith is a good mentor. I think when I watched Caleb Williams highlight videos last year, I was really struck by how many times he mostly made passes because he's faster than the opposing defense, which is a thing that's just going to happen in college. Um, I think he'll get better over time, especially there's another Patrick Mahomes clone.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just for
Wait,
those,
he looks like
listening.
Patrick Mahomes though.
Yeah. No,
Holy
this
shit.
is you said Caleb Williams like looking like Patrick Mahomes. No, this is the guy. Like
No, no,
watch the
people were
college.
saying that Caleb Williams looked like Patrick Mahomes on the field, not like
Right.
literally.
No, I know on the
Okay.
field. But this guy takes it to the next level. Dylan Raiola, he's actually a highly recruited quarterback, like a 5-star kind of like prospect. He transferred from Georgia to Nebraska this year. They won their first game against Colorado, or second game
Yeah, no,
against Colorado
I
last
saw
weekend. So
I
this
saw
was
the
the
clip.
guy. But look him up a little bit. His mannerisms are even like Mahomes a little zesty, right? Mahomes a little zesty. This
Yeah.
guy does the same thing. So this is like he looks like just even the hair, like the
Everything.
glasses, he's
He looks
wearing
like
everything.
Asian
So,
Mahomes.
well, he's not even. I think he's like I don't know, Morello. Maybe he's Mexican. I don't even know what he is. But this is the guy. But anyway, go ahead, finish your
So
thought.
I think it's really hard, and I think people got lucky, or the NFL got lucky with Cam Newton, and they got lucky with RG3 of being hypermobile quarterbacks who was able to succeed in the NFL. But even when you look at those two, RG3's career was cut short. Debatably it's because Washington has the worst field in all of the NFL. Um, you could look at Joe Heaslin and Alex Smith's injury as an example of that. And then Cam Newton, he had that MVP year, and he did good. His other years playing for the Panthers, but he never really reached that same height as he did the year that they went to the Super Bowl. Um, I think having a mobile quarterback is a very nice idea. Oh, and then Lamar Jackson, but Lamar can throw, and that's the thing, right? Is all of these quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, RG3, could also throw. Caleb Williams' whole selling point was that he could throw on the run in college, but throwing on the run doesn't really mean much if you're not going to be outrunning linebackers and defensive backs. And you're going against people way faster and way stronger than you were going against in college. And I looked at Caleb Williams' like stats too in college, like his win losses, and they weren't great. Like there were no Trevor Lawrence's numbers. I got his name right. Um, so I think he'll get better. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be the quarterback of this year,
What do you
but
mean?
like when you look at different quarterback classes, it's pretty easy to identify like the number one or number two quarterbacks.
Oh, wait, who though?
I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to be the number one quarterback from this year.
Oh, just
5
like it's
years,
for like
yeah.
okay,
Five
yeah,
five
I
years
see.
down the
Yeah,
line, I don't know if we're going to look at Caleb Williams as the de facto number one quarterback. I think he's
yeah, really tough.
probably the best quarterback Chicago's had in a while, but
You would think so.
that's not a very high bar. Like he's basically competing against Cutler and
Yeah,
Mitch Trubisky. Those are
Cutler
not.
and Steve McMahon from the '80s who actually won a Super Bowl with them. That's it.
But I don't even think McMahon was like a particularly good quarterback so much as
No,
Chicago just had a really good defense.
no, but he was still their quarterback when they won it,
That's fair.
so he's got to be up there. You know.
So that's not a very. Those aren't very
Yeah,
like high standards. And
yeah.
then
It's not like Favre, Rogers, and Bart Starr. It's
yeah.
Steve McMahon and Jay Cutler.
Which leads me to Bo Nix, who is probably the best quarterback that we've had since Manning. Again, not a very high bar, but it's a long
That's a
bar.
that's actually really weird to think of. I mean, yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, we'll see, but
I
yeah, it's
mean,
weird.
Bo Nix is basically competing against Trevor Simeon, and that's
Mark
about it.
Sanchez and Joe Flacco
Not
at the
even
end of his
Sanchez.
career.
Sanchez didn't even play a single
Uh,
snap for the Broncos.
really, I thought he started one game. Maybe not. Okay.
No, because that was
Uh,
no, we cut him actually.
who? And then Paxton Lynch, and then
Case Keenum,
Case Keenum. Holy crap!
Russell
Um,
Westbrook, Jarrett Stidham,
Russell Wilson. Yeah, Jared Stidham. I'm
Brock
like miss
Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler. Yeah, yeah. He's probably the best one, which is I think we're still missing somebody else though too, huh?
Almost certainly. Dude, I
Yeah,
did
you're
not
right. He's the best one.
realize
Yeah.
that Bo Nix was the first rookie quarterback that the Broncos has ever fielded.
Well, I think
Week
since
one.
John Elway, right? I
No,
think that was it,
I don't
or
think
no?
so. I think it was just in general.
Really? Okay.
But you have to think when John Elway was drafted, that era didn't really see a lot of people starting rookie quarterbacks.
Right, but I think he did though. We'll double check the stat, but
Let's see.
um,
No, because he only played 10 games his rookie year.
okay, maybe he didn't then. All right.
So it was Steve DeBerg.
He was a Broncos quarterback.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I'm trying to look
gotcha.
it up. It's kind of like awkward to look stuff up because then it just ends up being like a little bit of silence.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Well, I guess
Um,
he did start week one.
did he?
Yeah, so
Maybe he got
maybe
injured in between
it
or
was
something.
since John Elway. But in either
But
case, that's still
regardless,
kind of
it's
crazy.
40 years. Yeah, it's 40 years. So
So I think Bo Nix had a lot of things going against him that made him look bad, right? Like on the one hand, he had the most completed catches out of all of the quarterbacks. But on the other hand, he threw 42 times, which is not what you want your rookie quarterback doing, especially against a team like Seattle. But
but the fact that he had to do that and was still like, and it was a lot of dick and dunking. I get it, but he was still composed with the football. I think it says a lot. If you ask somebody else to throw that many times, usually they're going to be have a bad completion percentage, have more interceptions, those kinds of things. But the fact that he was like 27 for 42 or whatever it was,
26-42, you almost nailed
26.
it though.
Yeah, then that's not bad. That's solid. That's a good start.
And he was also our lead rusher, which again, not great because he only got 35 yards.
That's not promising that he was her leading rusher, but yeah, okay.
But that's a lot of stuff going against him. This is the same guy who made C.J. Stroud look bad last year, Week 1.
Yeah,
When
same defense. Yep,
yeah,
same. Yep,
DC.
yep.
So I
DC.
think
Yep.
I think Bo Nix has a lot of things going for him. I wasn't thrilled at how many times he threw balls that were into double coverage.
Yeah,
He very easily could have had 4 or 5 picks. But I also think it was encouraging because a lot of those ended up not being picks, not because the defensive backs were bad, but because he placed them well enough that the defensive back couldn't really intercept it.
right.
Um, I think if we had a slightly better wide receiving core, that game would have looked a lot better. So there's a lot of people who criticize the Broncos, and I can see that. We got 6 points because we got 6 points from defensive or sorry, let me start over. We got 10 points because of defense and special teams, and it's really discouraging knowing that we were within their end zone twice, and both times had to settle for field goals.
Yep.
But also, I would
Which is yep. Sorry, guys.
I would argue that Josh Reynolds, Cortland Sutton, Greg Dolchik, Marvin Mims, who didn't catch anything, Lil Jordan Humphrey, who didn't catch anything, is a worse wide receiving core than DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, or Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin. You know,
Overall, yeah, I would agree, and it sucks. It is the only thing that I'm actually kind of concerned about is once again it's one game, but I would have liked to see more improvement on the red zone offense because that's been our Achilles heel the last few years, ever since Russell was on the team, is we haven't been able to score
dude, it's
very well
been
in the
longer than
end
that.
zone.
Drew Lock.
Sure, even
Oh,
longer,
Drew
yeah,
Lock.
but
We forgot Drew Lock.
Drew Lock, yeah. Um,
Drew Lock
but
has
yeah,
the worst red zone touchdown percentage compared to every other team in the NFL.
yeah. So yeah, I guess even before Russell, so that's been our ongoing issue, and we got to clean that up like yesterday. Like that can't be an issue to that degree with us moving forward. So that's the only thing because, like you said, if you would have gotten some scores, some touchdowns on those like reds, like when we were in the red zone, this game could have just been totally different, to be honest. So hopefully this is just a learning game, and we got a tough game next week against Steelers. At least we're at home, but they have another good defense. So hopefully we can learn from it, and this like these tough defensive teams that we have to face in the beginning, it will only be good for Bo Nix to make everything else easier. But yeah, we still definitely gotta clean that up for sure.
Yeah, and I think I think the Steelers team is going to be a lot easier to go against than the Seahawks. It's actually
You
going to be
think
one of
you
my
think
favorite games to
you
watch.
think Russell's gonna play or what?
I hope he does.
That'd be interesting. I'm actually very interested. I really do want to see that game too, like the crowd reaction, and if he does play, or if he's just chilling on the sidelines, or what.
Did you
I'm
see
very interested.
Russ like warming up for the game and stuff, even though he was already rolled out?
Well, he kept his uniform on
He no,
too.
he did
Like,
warm ups.
okay, yeah. So yeah, he warmed up and kept his uniform on, even though he wasn't going to play. So yeah, kind
I
of weird. It's more of his
I
dorky thing that
miss
always comes out.
I miss Russell Wilson. I'm glad that he's not our starting quarterback anymore. But man, dude was like goofy as shit.
He's
Like
goofy as shit.
I
Right,
just
exactly.
remember his first year and the whole like um Bronco country let's ride or something.
Yeah.
And he would just say that every single week.
At the end of the press conference, he'd be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, let's ride."
He's
It's like, all right,
but
he's
I
something.
actually so in the list of games I want to talk about, games and teams I want to talk about, the Steelers Falcons game was one of them that I wanted to talk about because, you know, how how many times have you seen a team win a game scoring 0 touchdowns?
I think you've seen it a few times with the Steelers last few years, to
Yes.
be honest. But that's it. You're right. Other than the Steelers, that's you don't really see that often. They're winning games. Honestly, I mean, talk about two offenses that have gone down the hole the last few years. That's the Broncos and the Steelers. Like the Steelers used to be all like high flying with Big Ben and everything, and even when Antonio Brown was there and whatever, Emmanuel Sanders, all that kind of stuff. I mean, they were like a really like high powered offense, but the last few years with Pickett and all these um, different quarterbacks they've been terrible, just as bad. And the Broncos have been just right there. So it's like who's got the better offense right now with two recently historically bad offenses, and I'm hoping that that's us. I feel like that is us. Overall, I know the Steelers have um, George Pickens and they still got Najee Harris and even if Justin Fields is starting, like I mean he can be a dual threat quarterback. So not going to be easy, but I feel like we at least have the better offensive coordinator and Sean Payton, head coach. Hopefully, we can get that win out that game. But it's going to be fun, right? It's going to be a very fun game for sure.
So I was kind of curious because I was looking at Justin Fields stats, and consequently I was also looking at Kirk Cousins stats. And I wanted to see because 42 felt like it was a lot to throw, like in general.
Yeah.
The top four most attempts really surprised me. So I wanna hear your guess for the top five passing attempts in week one.
Oh, in week one, top five passing attempts. I'm gonna say Stafford was in there. He threw a lot, right? So
Stafford was
Stafford.
number one.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then obviously Bonus was in there, right?
Yeah, he was number four.
Okay. And then most I know Baker had a really good game. I think he's like 24 for 30 from what I remember. So I don't think he's in there. Um,
Did you
I don't
say
think it's
Baker
Kirk.
Mayfield?
No, I was just saying maybe him, but he had a really good game, but he completed like 24 for 30, so he wasn't like 24
He
for like
was
40 or
15th.
something like that. Yeah, so it's not him. Let me just take a couple more. I don't think it was that. Uh, um, not sure. I mean, Goff wasn't on there, right? He didn't pass
No,
that much.
Lions was 21st. He threw 28 times.
Oh, okay, it wasn't even him. Let me take a couple more guesses and let's let you tell me.
Keep in mind, surprising. That is the
Surprising.
big hint.
Well, I'm not gonna say Caleb or yeah, he was 29, so it's not him, not Levis. I'm trying to think. Was it Justin Fields? Was he in there?
No,
Okay.
Justin Fields
Surprise.
was actually the third least.
Okay. Wait, surprising though.
Yeah, surprising.
Uh, uh,
Okay, name of the 32 teams. What's the one quarterback that you would not expect to make top five most passing attempts?
I'm trying to run through like all the divisions, like Gardner Minshew.
Not Gardner Minshew. More,
Uh,
more.
AFC North. I mean, Burrow wasn't there. I don't think Lamar did it.
It's Lamar.
Anthony. Oh, Lamar was.
Lamar was number five at 41 passing attempts week one.
Okay, and that's crazy because he ran a lot too. So he was just like
He was doing it
doing
all.
everything. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so
And
you
then
got
so this
Rams at number one, Broncos at number four, Baltimore at
and
number
Lamar.
five.
Are they still surprised? The other ones?
The other, yeah, they're one of them is very surprising.
Okay. The other
Um,
one is like par for the course, maybe.
yeah, one of them
Uh,
you should know
like
because we talked about his stats a little bit earlier.
do you talk about Trevor maybe or Jordan Love or Hertz? Either one of those three.
None of those.
Not to uh,
Do you want another hint?
let's see, West. It's
The other
not
two
Dak.
teams both lost.
They both lost.
So
Oh
all
man,
five of these teams lost.
Bryce Young.
Not Bryce Young.
Oh man. Uh,
All right, I'm gonna give you two more guesses.
okay. AFC.
One's an AFC team. One's an NFC team. Last hint.
Okay. Okay. I'm
And
gonna
I would still say it's
just
still surprising.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones was one of them, tied with
Okay,
Bo Nix at 42.
and he was like the surprising one, right?
Both
Or
of them are
not?
surprising.
Okay, both of them are surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one is the AFC. Okay, let me take this through AFC North. Oh, Deshaun.
Yep. Deshaun Watson
Yeah.
at
Okay.
45 passing attempts,
Yeah. Okay.
which,
Yeah. Kind of just a random list, to be honest. Kind of a random list, to be honest.
and again, like it's week one. Obviously, the more behind you are, like the Browns lost 17-33. The Giants lost 28-6. So,
Yeah.
obviously when you're behind by that much, you have to throw the ball more. You can't just run it. Lamar was a little surprising because that was a fairly close
Yeah.
game throughout. Bo
And he
Nix is
was
kind of
doing it.
surprising because it's a pretty close
Yeah.
game throughout. And excuse me, the Rams aren't that surprising because I couldn't tell you who their running back was until I looked it up.
I do like that Peyton actually did have him throw that much. I don't think Russell Wilson, he rarely even threw more than like 30 attempts a game. So the fact that he was comfortable with him just, even if he was digging and ducking it around, like just throwing it around a little bit, I think it's a good sign for us, moving forward. I do want to say, I want to give you these two stats of the weekend, and I want you to tell me what your reaction to it is, because they were very surprising to me. And so the first one, and I'll say them both. Have you seen this where the last 6 seasons, so 2019 till now, is what I have, but I'm sure this goes historically, like this is like a historically low amount, especially the last maybe 25 to 30 years. But this is of the last 6 seasons, this is easily the lowest amount of touchdown passes that in total that all quarterbacks have passed for. Um, Actually, I think about it, it ties last year, but check this out: 2019, 61 total touchdown passes for the first week are thrown. 2020, 52, so a slight decrease, but still, a good amount. 2021, 61. So it ties 2019 for most touchdown passes first week. 2022 is 51. So slight dip again, but still a high number. But here's where it gets interesting. 2023, 37. So almost half the amount less from like the peak of 61. And then 2024, we had 35 going into the Monday night game. And I think that game there was only two touchdown passes, one by Rodgers, one by Tyrod Taylor. Purdy had a good game, but he didn't throw any touchdown passes. So
He should have.
yeah, he should have. But so 37 is the total, tying last year, which is once again almost half of the peak of 61 in 2019 and 2021. What do you think is behind that? Because the other stat I have is passing yards. Okay. This
Wait, hold
first
on.
week,
You're cutting out just a little bit.
oh, coming up. Can you hear me now?
Say a little bit more.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Good now. This first week, and I don't know. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. I hear some like beeping in the background though.
No, the headphone jack is being weird. Hang on.
Um, so I think a lot of that has to do. One, I'm kind of surprised because I feel like in general the secondary has taken a huge hit recently. Like I feel like all the good cornerbacks and safeties have been the good cornerbacks or safeties since for the past
But
six
can you hear me
years.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I know you were talking about the quarter. Let me just get the stat out real quick.
All right.
Um, so I don't know what the other years are, you know, just comparing like this year to other ones, but just looking at it, it looks really low. Only two quarterbacks this entire weekend passed over 300 yards. Okay, only only 15, so only half the league passed over 200 yards. So there was another.
You
I
cut out.
guess it was. Sorry, I was reading. There was another 16 quarterbacks that passed for under 200 yards. So that's pretty crazy to me. Usually, like we have, like 10 quarterbacks. It seems like that pass for 300, and like almost everyone pretty much passes for at least 200. But the uh, fact that we had 16, um, no, sorry,
17 under 200 yards. That's the set
yes,
that I saw.
yeah, 17 under 200 yards is insane to me. So what do you think is behind that? Is it the defense is catching up, the rules? Everyone's doing like shell, the two safeties in the back. What do you think is the reason behind that? And should we be kind of concerned?
So it is kind of funny because I feel like, as I was saying earlier, I think the secondary has gone kind of weaker. You know, we're far from stuff like Champ Bailey or Revis Island. Um, right now, the best cornerbacks are probably somewhere between Sauce Gardner and Sauce Gardner. Like
Like
I know
Passer,
Davius White
Passer
and
can,
hmm?
Passer
Yeah,
can.
Pastor Tannen. Like yeah, we have Tre'Davious White, who I don't remember when's the last time he's played a full season. We have uh Jalen Ramsey, who I don't know when's the last time he's actually played well.
He just got paid, nice amount ever, but yeah,
So I think it's kind of funny, but also one, I think safeties have gone a lot faster. And when you have fast safeties, you don't feel as good throwing fades and what's streak routes. Um, I think more teams are kind of adopting this cover two safety that
yeah. It's like a two-man shell, like
yeah.
safeties deep kind of thing.
I think honestly I think teams like KC and Arizona kind of ruined it for the rest of the league where they would just punish the one safety high. And I point those two teams out, but Buffalo does the same thing, Miami did the same thing. Um where you just have two people running fade routes and you just throw a seam. So I think a lot of teams are adapting to that. So we're not getting as many, long plays. And I think a lot of these like long passes that we're seeing are usually yak yards. There's not really an easy way to see what's the longest throw without like throw to catch without the yards after catch. Is there? No, there's not really. Um, I think the other thing that kind of contributes to it though, is it's just safer to run the ball.
Yeah,
Um, there's not a lot of good running backs in the league right now, but I think there's not a lot of great running backs in the league right now, but I think there's a lot of good running backs. Even someone like Tony Pollard, who, you know, I wouldn't say is an elite running back, is still pretty decent. I think more teams are just trying to run the ball just because it's safer. And I think there's also just kind of a huge downgrade in quarterback play right now.
yes,
So, in your top five for yardage, you've got Tua, you've got Stafford, Pat Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, and Lamar Jackson. Right after that, you've got Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love slash, I'm just gonna say Jordan Love. Malik Willis's 5-yard throw did not contribute that much. Um, you've got Gardner Minshew, which is surprising. Josh Allen and Brock Purdy, and then to round out the 200 pluses, you've got C.J. Stroud, Sam Darnold, and Jared Goff right at 200, with Derek Carr and Anthony Richardson coming right behind at 199. I think a lot of those teams or a lot of those people that I just named are newer quarterbacks, and I think there's not a lot of teams that have a good wide receiving core, and I think it's even fewer teams that have a good wide receiving core that also has a good quarterback that can actually utilize them, right? So like, you look at
Yeah.
the Bears who have a good wide receiving core, but they're not really able to utilize it. So I think that's kind of the mixture of it. I think also maybe wide receivers are getting worse. I think this is my controversial take of the day. I think wide receivers are getting kind of soft.
Yeah. No, I think all of that. I think quarterback play is definitely down. You know, it seems like I'm used to just having like a weekend where everyone's just, passing for 300 yards and two touchdowns, whatever. But quarterback play is a little bit down, even when you take the usual top five like Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen, and then if you want to put Herbert or whoever is your fifth person, whatever. Um, Everyone was just kind of down, and like the game plan for certain games, kind of dictates that too. Like I know Harbaugh is not trying to put the ball into Justin Herbert's hands, so it's just kind of like run the ball a lot and make some good throws or whatever. So he's not going to be just always throwing for 30 yards and three touchdowns and interception, 32 for 43, something like that. You know what I mean? So I think quarterback play is down, but I do think the defenses have caught up a little bit. I think we were so offensively orientated, like for almost a decade, it seemed that the last couple of years, I think defenses have caught up a little bit, and they're like so scared of the deep pass that they've basically done everything they can to prevent that with like we said, that two shell deep safety defense with two safeties in the back, kind of just covering it. I think like they're more willing to give up the run, even though there's like I feel like we're not even getting that much running back production, but they're more willing to give that up versus deep plays and being burned in the back end. But what's still interesting, like you said, like the cornerback play in this league is down, so we're not really seeing. You would think that the wide receivers would still be able to burn them, but um, that's not happening because of the safety help.
Well, and
So
we talked about this a little bit last year, where we you and I grew up in a generation of football where we were watching Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, um,
yeah,
Brett Favre slash Aaron Rodgers, and whether or not you hate him or not, I'm gonna go and throw in Tony Romo for a regular season of like these guys who their whole shtick was timing passes, right? They would run a 5-step drop and throw the ball, a 3-step drop sometimes. But you very rarely saw 7-step drops, and you very rarely saw passes go outside of the pocket. And when we did, it was really exciting to watch. And the quarterbacks that were drafted at the time reflected that. We got exciting picks like Cam Newton or RG3, but really it wasn't until Cam Newton made it to the Super Bowl where people started looking at more mobile quarterbacks again. That's when we started getting quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. I didn't name these earlier, but Alex Smith and Joe Flacco and Carson Palmer were also the same kind of quarterbacks of, I expect you to make this cut at this exact yardage, and this is where I'm going to put it, and I'm going to lead it so that the cornerbacks can't get to you. And so even though I think our cornerbacks, pound for pound are a lot weaker now than they were back when we had, Manning, Brady, and all of them. The the thing is playing man to man now is not as important because now being a good route runner isn't as important because the more important thing is how can you make separation? Can you run the slant route and then break off fast enough that the quarterback can throw it to you? Because how many timing quarterbacks do we have in the league right now? Like I
Yeah,
would
not
say
many.
maybe Brock Purdy. Obviously, there's still Aaron Rodgers. But maybe Brock Purdy, maybe Kirk Cousins,
Stafford. Yeah.
Stafford. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think a lot of that is because of reduced amount of slot receivers or the reduced role of slot receivers. Like we're not really
Yeah.
seeing
I
Wes Walker types getting blasted.
yeah. No, you're right. I felt when I was watching these games on Red Zone and stuff, I just felt like there was just something off with the quarterback play, just in general. I'm like, I feel like these guys are not like as confident with their throws. Everything seems so conservative until maybe one potential deep play, but everything before that, it just feels like I don't know if I never felt comfortable with some of these quarterbacks for like their passes. And I just felt like whenever they were going to throw, like I feel like this is not going to be a good pass, whether the quarterback doesn't throw a good ball or the receiver just doesn't catch it. Um, Whereas in the past, I just remember like I'm watching Drew Brees, I'm watching Peyton, I'm watching Brady. I'm like, I felt like for every pass they were going to throw, that it was like a good decision. Maybe it was caught, maybe it wasn't, but there was never a doubt on like whatever decision they made, and I didn't feel all frenetic with like what was going to happen with like the ball and that pass that they just threw. With all these quarterbacks, I just felt, I just feel like nothing's timing, and timing is a beautiful thing to see. Like Stafford was balling, like because he was just timing stuff out. But with some of these quarterbacks, like it's not. It's just like are they open or are they not? And that's not you know really the way you want to be playing to be a successful quarterback. So
And I think, and this will be the last thing I say on the topic because I don't want to piss anyone off. And this isn't meant to come off as like insulting or condescending or anything. But I think honestly, the quarterbacks that we have now are just not as smart as the quarterbacks as we had back in the early 2000s. And what I mean by that is we don't really see a lot of pre-snap adjustments that aren't coming from the coaches.
yeah,
We're not, there's not as big of an emphasis on reading defenses as there used to be. And we still do. Like we still do see from time to time teams punishing bad defenses. I think I can't remember if it was a Rams game or if it was a 49ers game where the quarterback saw that they were in a one deep set. And so they audible to a slot fade route to create separation, have force the 1v1 against the safety who is playing under. Like so we still see stuff like that, but we're so far away from the Peyton Manning of going up with one play and then audibling everyone off of that one play to something else and running down the play clock all the way down to one before snapping the ball. And again, that's not really a criticism because I think playbooks are getting harder and they're getting smarter, and a lot of that's just built into like pre snap audibles, which still happen. So I think all of that kind of compounds to we're seeing more explosive quarterback plays, but less calculated. And I think when you're being explosive, you're going to see a lot less successful passes, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, it does, and I hope this is just like we'll see. We just started once again. It's literally week one, it's heading into week two. Hopefully, just a little blip, and it's first week. You know, jitters getting out of the way, and we'll see what happens next week. But yeah,
So
hopefully, yeah. I want to see just more timing and more anticipation. Not just like this running around scrambling, and which can be fun, but it's like, you know, it's you can't just rely on that. So
So we're at an hour and a half right now. So I'm gonna scrap the rest of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. They weren't that important anyway. But
right, all right, all right.
um, I do want to stop with two more questions. So this is probably gonna be a 2 hour episode. I'm sorry, our loyal listeners. Um, Speaking since we were talking so much about quarterbacks, who who impressed you the most week one? Which quarterback
Um,
impressed you the most?
as far as what quarterback impressed me the most, I would say honestly, just from what I just said before, um, I'll I'll, I'll give you two names. I'm gonna say Stafford is like like I said before, he's what reminds me of what we saw, a decade ago. But that's exactly it. Like you can just deal it out all game. You don't need to run around. You're just timing it out. You can throw whatever you want to throw. Even though they lost, I thought he had a really impressive game. And that game could actually, be a preview of like the NFC title game, to be honest. So Stafford's one. The other one, I think Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy. I mean, I know he had a touchdown pass, but he looked good. And the Jets defense was supposed to be super good. He's got a lot of names on defense. Everybody's saying, wants to just be down on Brock Purdy or whatever, but comes out again, first game of the season, still playing pretty well and led his team to a victory. So those would be my top two.
Yeah, I think I liked Purdy. I mean, I mentioned this last week of how I think Purdy kind of gets a bad reputation, and I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. He's slowly sneaking up my top 10 list again. Um, Obviously, shout outs to Lamar and CJ Stroud, highest yards per quarter for a quarterback, or not? Sorry, not highest yard, but they played well.
I do want to give an honorable mention. Okay.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold, Derek Carr.
dude, those
Sam
were gonna
Darnold.
be my two,
Okay.
or
Yeah,
not Derek Carr. Sorry, Sam Darnold was gonna be who I was gonna say.
well, I'll just say Sam. I'll just talk about Derek Carr then. He did have 19 for 23, um, 3 touchdowns, destroy. I know it's the Panthers, but still 47-10 or whatever it was. That's a pretty good game. Um, maybe he's got a new OC this year. Maybe this is the right connection for him, and maybe he'll have a really good year. But Derek Carr, impressive. It's one game. They got the Cowboys next week, and we'll see what happens there. But Derek Carr is my other honorable mention. So,
And I
what about you?
I think
Yeah.
Derek Carr is a pretty underrated quarterback. Um, he's Derek Carr kind of reminds me of um, I was gonna say Tony Romo, but definitely not Tony Romo. He's not Derek Carr's not Dak Prescott. He reminds me of Dak Prescott in the sense that he's not really going to win you a lot of games, just off of his arm
Yeah,
alone. But he's
that's a
also not
comparison.
really going to lose you any games. Of course, talking about Dak Prescott in the regular season, but
Of
um,
course.
I think Derek Carr is just probably the most consistent quarterback in the NFL. Um, his like touchdown to interception ratio is nothing crazy, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's like the most consistent. He'll kind of be up and down, but I would say I would agree with being underrated. I feel like he's a good quarterback. But he's you got to help him and put him in the right system,
I mean,
and he can flourish. I mean, he was an MVP candidate back in 2016, so he has that talent. He just needs to be in the right situation.
and again, like I'm not trying to say that he's I wouldn't take him over a lot of other quarterbacks, but just that to just throw some career stats at you. He 2019 70.4% completion rate over 513 attempts, throwing only 8 interceptions. Um, he's had multiple 4,000 plus seasons with the Raiders. So it's not, he wasn't on a particularly good team. Um, his interceptions kind of high. I don't really want to try pulling up like season interceptions compared to other teams. But he's a consistent quarterback. I think not. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a
I,
top five
yeah,
quarterback, but
I just like Derek Carr.
he's a
Okay.
safe quarterback. I guess is what I'll end that on.
I just root for Derek Carr because he's the only quarterback left that's around a year of our age range. So I'm like, come on, man. That's basically our class. He was born like 91, early 91.
Yeah, we did
No
talk
one
about
else is
this.
really, yeah, no one is really around that range. He's the only one. So like Carr, you gotta like put it up for our class. But because like Prescott's close, but he's like summer of '93, so that's like a couple years younger than us. And then I think Goff is also close, but he's 94. Mahomes is close-ish as well, but he's 95. So those are our closest ones. And then we have some older one. And Gino's like, actually Gino's 90, but that's still not within the 1 year range or whatever. And then you got like Stafford and Kirk at 88, 1988. So yeah, you gotta like root for the guys like right there, like you gotta root for age group for sure.
And then I'll throw my honorable mention towards Sam Darnold as well. 12 for 12 to start off the game is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
1924, especially coming from a guy who didn't think he was going to start for most of the offseason, coming into a bad situation. And he looked good. He looked respectable, I thought. Um,
Yep. Agreed.
but I think my most surprising quarterback for the week is Baker Mayfield. He had the
Sure.
highest completion percentage at 80%, 24 for 30, throwing for 280 yards, which is fourth so far, behind Mahomes, the Rams, and Dolphins. He has the highest adjusted yards gained per pass attempt, which is some crazy statistics that I barely comprehend. Um, 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He's playing like a guy who deserves a starting spot. And this is from the guy that, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, a million hours ago, was a guy that was signed just to be a bridge quarterback between Tom Brady and whoever the Bucks were going to get to, you know, be a franchise quarterback. And he's playing like a franchise quarterback. I would I would even go so far as to say that it is not too big of an overreaction to say that he's a top 7 quarterback in the league.
Right now, yeah, with this down quarterback play, like he's definitely there. The only reason I didn't have Baker in my top, you know, or my surprise quarterback per se was I wasn't really surprised. Like I feel like the end of last year he was playing really well, so I'm not really surprised that he put up these really good numbers after what he showed towards like the back half of last season in the playoffs. So yeah, Baker is a top 7, top 8 quarterback easily right now in the NFL after week 1. We'll see how it ends, but he's playing really well.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is something that we didn't really get to talk about last week and I feel like is a hallmark of our podcast. Just what is the game you are most looking forward to next week?
So next week, definitely got some interesting games. Obviously, I'm always gonna say a Broncos game just because I'm very interested. Especially
It's a
now with
grudge match game. Russ versus the
yeah, rookie
Broncos.
quarterback, and then versus Russell Wilson. Yeah, yeah. Whether he plays or not, it's just very interesting. So that's definitely going to be one of the top games. I'm just kind of looking through as far as what else is um, super interesting other than the Broncos uh, Steelers game. Saints Cowboys, very interesting with how the Saints started against the Panthers. I want to see if that was like a fad or if that was for real. So that's very interesting to me. Um, Bucks Lions could be really good. How good Baker's playing and how good the Lions, are and how, well they played against, the Rams and everything. That would be a really good game. Um, but yeah, I think those are my top ones there.
Dude, not even
Um,
Thursday night. Nothing to make your top list.
nah, Thursday night. I mean, Bills Dolphins is that'll be good. It's on my top list, but the fact that it's on Thursday also gives it a step down. Like if it was a Sunday night game, it's different. But Thursday game is a little bit different to me. They always have a different kind of vibe.
They feel
Um,
they feel more scrappy.
yeah. So I mean, that's a good matchup for sure. Maybe if it was like towards the end of the season, it was like more of a playoff contention, that'd definitely be up there. But I'm not as intrigued about that. I will say one more game. That's Bengals
God, I
Chiefs.
knew you were gonna say that. Dude,
I
the
have to.
Bengals
I
have
gotta.
been. I'm off the Bengals train, dude.
I'm still on. I am still on the revenge Burrow train. But I mean, we got to see something. I mean, I will say, like, you know, we didn't even know if Jamar Chase was going to play last week, and because contract negotiations and stuff. So he barely has practiced with Burrow, so they're a little bit off. T Higgins, I don't even think played either, if I remember correctly. And they lost Joe Mixon to the Texans, I think. So um, that team is just kind of different, and there hasn't been as much cohesion. So I'm interested to see like how they bounce back. Was it just they're kind of prone to these slow starts, and I'm curious like is that just like a 1 week thing, a couple week thing, and they bounce back, or are they gonna be bad the entire year? So um, we'll see.
I made
That's the other game that I'm interested about.
I made a similar
What about you?
ultimatum last year with, I think it was the Eagles. Um, if the Bengals don't stomp the Commanders next week, I'm off the Bengals train.
Wait, Bengals stomping the Commanders or the
Yeah, week
Chiefs?
3.
Or
So I
oh,
think they're
that
gonna.
game.
Yeah, I
So this
that
game, you
is
don't really care what happens,
this year.
but
I mean, this week. There's no way the Bengals are gonna beat the Chiefs this year. I don't think that's gonna be an interesting game. Interesting game at all.
okay. But you need the Bengals to beat the Commanders the following week at home,
Yeah,
or
they
else.
they basically need to stomp the Commanders and the Panthers the next 2 weeks after this week. If
Yeah,
they're anything less than 2-2 after week 4, I'm off the
agreed.
Bengals train.
I think
And
that's
if it's
fair.
not like a
That's fair.
convincing win, like I'm talking at least a score and a half lead, right?
Sure, sure.
I think,
I think that's more than fair. Yeah.
dude, I want the Bears Texans game to be interesting. I don't think the Bears are it. If this was happening like week 10, week 11, it
No,
might
I
be more
mean
interesting.
they should have lost. Yeah, I mean they should have lost last week. And the Texans looked really good. The Colts look good too, actually, but the Texans looked pretty good this past week. So I'd be surprised if the the Bears were even like. I mean, I see him losing that game by 2 touchdowns. To be honest.
Yeah. I
So
think Bill's offense,
wh-
like you said, is
what's
interesting.
the
It's
line? I was like -7. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess to be fair, the NFL lines are always like not that big. The college lines can be like you know
yeah, I mean, any given Sunday.
-30 and stuff like that if you're playing like an FCS team. Yeah, so usually you won't see much more than like -10 or something in the NFL. So I guess that's fair. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2 touchdown game.
I think I think Bill's offense is interesting in the same way that I think every Bills offense game is going to be interesting. Um I think Seahawks Patriots would be really funny just cuz it's the battle of the defenses. Like that's a very, old school 80s style game. But
Yeah,
also I think the Patriots aren't as good as they looked last week and they didn't look that good
but
last week.
they could win that though. Cross country at home, that's tough. So we'll see.
Um no, I think honestly my most exciting game is going to be Buccaneers Lions because if the Buccaneers if Baker Mayfield is going to be a top 7 quarterback like I'm saying, he needs to be able to go to Detroit. And it's a tough place to play, especially, last year. And
Yeah,
they need to be
they
able to
lose
win.
last year.
Um Saints Cowboys I'm not as sold on as you are, just because regular season Cowboys is a completely different beast.
Isn't it funny though, real quick? You look at some of these matchups, right? And teams change every year. But think of like this Buccaneers Lions matchup pre Brady, for example. Like that would be like a game you would have at the corner at the bar. What you would never even see it, right? But
I
now
would
it's like
basically only watch it to watch Stafford play.
right. Yeah, I guess pre Brady Stafford would have been there, but and then Buccaneers were just some random, whether it's Jameis or whatever. But regardless, like it wouldn't be like an intriguing game. Even when Stafford was there, they were making playoffs like once every like 8 years. Like I think maybe like
Yeah,
twice or something like that when he was there. So like yeah, this would be like like a like not a game whatsoever that you would want to be like even interested in. But now it's like a top three, top four game of the week, and you're like it's just weird how like your perception of teams changes honestly like on a yearly basis sometimes. So
but also
yeah,
like the
super interesting.
Buccaneers Lions, kind of to your point, both teams kind of feel like, especially Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield, both teams feel like teams that are trying to prove that they're good teams. Like obviously the Buccaneers had the whole Brady era, but I don't think that's really
Right.
changed the stigma of the Buccaneers. Like, okay, cool, you guys won Super Bowls with Tom Brady.
Yeah,
That's
with
not that
Brady, yeah.
impressive. Like, it was Brady plus Gronkowski. Like, ooh, a lot of teams would be able to do that. So I think both of them are kind of trying to knock that chip off their shoulder of like, hey, we're serious teams now. We're legitimately good teams. And I think honestly for both of them, they're fighting for that number 2 spot. I think the number 1 spot's going to belong pretty handily to the 49ers in
Niners
the
still look
NFC.
good. Yeah. And
But,
McCaffrey didn't
they're
even play. Yeah.
God, dude, Mason looked great. Jordan Mason.
He did look good. So they're gonna have plenty of options even when he's back. So
Yeah.
that team that's why when you said they were your number one team, I was like, all right, that that makes sense to me. I don't know why you're getting pushback about that.
And I think after last week, they're back up to number 1. I still see Chiefs as number 1 in a lot of power rankings, but I just think that's a lot of Mahomes boys, you know. The Colts Packers is disappointing. That could have been a really interesting game, but I think now it's pretty
Yeah, if
sound to
Love
fade
was
the Colts.
playing, it would have been good. Yeah.
I do
So
like it because this might actually be the first time that Malik is going against the Colts, despite being on the Titans for 2 years.
oh yeah, good for Malik, man.
Yeah,
Like
I don't
he's
think
just
he
out
ever
here.
started against the Colts. Dude, I feel bad for him because during the Green
What?
Bay game, they like showed his face as he's lining up for the first snap, and he just got these like deer in the headlight eyes, and he throws
Oh
the
really,
ball like he's throwing a Hail Mary, and it's just a 5 yard slant pass. And he
dude?
throws it so hard, a wide receiver doesn't even try catching it.
He is so bad. Like he was so bad with
You're
like
cutting
those
in and
that
out
one.
again,
He
man.
started like one game. Sorry, he hear me now.
Barely.
Barely hear me now.
Yeah.
So, what about now?
I think you're better now.
Yeah, that game he played against or with the Titans, like that one game he started, he was so bad. They almost still won that game too. I forgot who it was against, but it was because that defense was really good. But he's pretty bad. Like he's the backup right now, just to give him a second chance to see if there's anything there. But there isn't. Like he'll probably be gone by next year. So
Speaking of backups, it wasn't very long. Thoroughly impressed with Tyrod. The one like run that
yeah,
he
but
had.
Tyrod always does. He always does that. Like he's a really good backup, but he always has these flashes. But he can't be a full season starter. One, because he's always injured, and two, it's he can do a flash, but he can't do a consistent thing. So
So I'll leave you. I'll end this. I'll end this podcast with this conspiracy theory. So you
okay.
remember when Tyrod was starting for the Chargers?
Yeah, like the one game he started.
So the conspiracy, because I think he started 4 games for the Chargers before he got hurt.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Let me double check that real fast. Um, no, he only started 1 game. You're right.
Yeah. That's it.
So the conspiracy. is that the team doctor really wanted Justin Herbert to start, and so that's why he injected him and pierced his lungs. Like, I don't think he meant to like try to kill him or anything. That's the conspiracy I heard, was to try jump starting Justin Herbert's career. You got to take out the starting quarterback.
I did hear that as well, but that's quite the
That's quite the
like
accusation.
accusation and like the length someone would have to go through to actually make that happen. Like, I mean, whatever, like whatever happened, but it's like the length someone would have to go through, like for that to happen, is like a lot. Like, okay, we want you to do this, like puncture is long or whatever it was, like,
Risk
and do
your
this, like,
risk your PhD.
yeah, all this stuff, like that's a little bit much just to get Justin Herbert to start.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, hell, in Cleveland, they're thinking about getting Jameis to start, even though they owe Deshaun Watson like all the world's money. They still might start Jameis. Like, if they really wanted to start Herbert, they just start Herbert.
Have you
Same with
heard?
like Matt Flynn, same thing. They started Russell Wilson, even though they just paid Matt Flynn. So it's like, it's not unheard of.
Have you heard of the conspiracy that Cleveland is paying these people to make these new allegations against Deshaun Watson so that they can get out of his contract?
Yeah, yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. That's one I could
That
actually
one's pretty
believe.
believable.
Yeah, it's actually super believable. In fact, I mean, they should probably be trying to do that, whether or not it happens. Like, do whatever you can to not have to pay it if you're
That's
Cleveland.
so messed up.
That's what I'd be doing. Not gonna lie, but they put themselves in a situation. I hope they go pay rip off it.
So I have a fun stat, but I think I'll wait till next week. Um, it's kind of a
Save it.
scuffed. It's kind of a scuffed podcast today, kind of a scuffed episode. A little bit of audio issues here and there.
I mean, we're
Um,
always gonna have one of these every season, so
yeah.
I'm glad we had it now.
Our 10-minute talk about Tyreek and Deshaun Watson turned into a 40-minute talk. But we're under 2 hours, so it's still not the longest podcast that we've ever had. Check us out
Close.
for live streams probably next Tuesday, probably around 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Mountain time, 6 o'clock Central
6
time,
Central.
somewhere around there. I
Thanks
don't
for the
know.
thanks for the full time zone breakdown.
Yeah, sorry if you're in Hawaii. um, no. Shoot, man,
I think
I
that's
got.
like one. That's like one Hawaii time.
That's not that early.
No.
All right, take us away.
You listen to the sports show featuring Jay and Nate. You have a good one.